Welcome to the Grove. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, please find your seats, settle down. We're going to go ahead and get started. So, welcome to Neuroscience 101. I'm going to be your professor this semester. My name is Professor Grove. My office hours are on the syllabus, as well as the course materials that you're going to need and our schedule. I do not take attendance, but historically, students who have shown up for class usually do much better on the tests. I do have office hours, which are located on the syllabus, and anyone who's having any issues or just would like to discuss things with me further, go ahead and stop by my office. Today, we're just going to have a light class, and I'm going to read a small article from the textbook on theoretical models of attention. And essentially, this is just an introduction to how the brain works, specifically related to behavioral arousal and selective attention, which I think is probably a really, really good topic for our first class. And we're going to go ahead and just give you a small sample. So this is chapter 6. It's found on page 207 of your textbooks, which I know most of you probably haven't purchased yet because you were waiting to see if we were actually going to use it, and we are. So you will need to purchase that at the bookstore. The last two previous versions are fine. There haven't really been any significant changes, or you can purchase the new one, but I would suggest getting an older version if you're able. So we're going to start out with the chapter on attention and selective perception. And I think this is a really good chapter to start with for our first class, because I know a lot of you this early in the morning are struggling to pay attention, and you possibly have selective perception. So it would be good if you understand how that works. So essentially, we're going to talk about how do we attend to the world around us? How much do our internal desires, beliefs, momentary necessities, and intent affect our perceptual experiences? How do external events in the world capture our attention, and how does this interact with voluntary control? What brain systems and mechanisms underlie these attentional processes, and what syndromes and deficits occur when these systems are damaged or fail to develop normally? These are all things that we're going to be looking at this semester, and I think that you'll find them quite interesting and enlightening. So I'm going to go ahead and have my TA just dim the lights a little bit, and we're going to have some nice slides up behind me here, and I want you guys to just lay back, relax, and listen to my voice, and let's see if we can absorb a little bit this morning while we're all still struggling to wake up and maybe enjoying our coffees. Feel free to record this lecture. I have no problem with that. If you would like to bring your phone up here and set it by the podium, that's fine. But we're going to go ahead and get started. Okay. So this is a little excerpt from page 209 for those who maybe already purchased the book. How the Brain Works, Behavioral Arousal and Selective Attention. Attention has complex definitions. It involves consciousness, awareness, and attentiveness, not to mention related deficits. Scientists concentrated primarily on global states of attention prior to the beginnings of the information processing revolution in the late 1950s and early 1960s. The emphasis then was on distinctions between conscious and unconscious states, such as sleep versus wakefulness. In the late 1940s, Giuseppe Mazzuri and Horace Magnaun at the University of California at Los Angeles showed that stimulating a cat's brainstem changed its global behavioral state. In some regions of the brainstem, sleep was induced by stimulation, while in other regions, wakefulness resulted. These changes in global state or arousal can be related to specific neurons in the brain and are reflected by changes in the electroencephalogram, EEG, the small voltage fluctuations that accompany neuronal activity in the brains of all animals. The EEG is a clear indicator of the state of global arousal and sleep in normal subjects. One can pinpoint the change from wakefulness to sleep and to different stages of sleep by viewing the EEG alone. Isn't that interesting? Remember, just relax, lay back, and listen to my voice. Such changes must, however, be distinguished from the changes in brain activity that form the basis for selective attention and selective perception. Attentive behaviors have a hierarchical structure. At the most global level are states of alertness, such as sleep and wakefulness. Wakefulness includes more and less attentive states, drowsiness, alertness, and hyperalertness, such as when a life-threatening situation arises. At a finer level of description are levels within each awake, global state of awareness. Here we reach levels of description that are appropriate for considering selectivity, as with the cocktail party effect. And I'm sure many of you are familiar with the cocktail party effect. The cocktail party effect is not just a global change in behavioral arousal or attentive state, but a reflection of a selective attention because the listener's goal is to attend to one source of sound while simultaneously ignoring potentially distracting inputs. These effects may be covert because we may not become aware of them by observing the listener we think is listening to us. This distinction between selective processes and global state changes is essential for its implications in attention research, which is not to say that arousal, vigilance, and other global states are not interesting topics of research, and for the implications that non-selective behavioral changes can have for experimental design and the changes to neural activity correlated with different tasks. Oh, I know that's a lot to take in, but just let it wash over you. That's right. And I'm going to have my teaching assistant dim the lights just a little bit more. Can you dim the lights a little more? Okay, good. All right. And just try to relax. Listen to the soothing sound of my voice. Showing that neurons are more active when an animal is excitedly performing a task, as compared with drowsily watching stimuli, might be an example only of a non-specific state difference induced by the excitement of the task, and not evidence of neuronal mechanisms of selective processing. Non-specific behavioral arousal might increase the activity of all sensory neurons, and not merely those processing the intended stimuli. These design considerations plagued the interpretation of many early studies of selective attention as described in the text. The problems were overcome by controls that physiological psychologists used for studying auditory attention in humans. This victory is largely due to the appreciation of a theoretical framework in the psychological literature that distinguished between non-specific global state changes and selective processes. Just one example of how hard-fought theories fuel scientific advances. And there is a lovely chart that shows the hierarchical relationships between states of arousal, attentiveness, and selective attention. So at the top, we have awake and asleep. And going down from awake, we have inattentiveness, which is drowsiness or relaxed states. And we have attentiveness, which are alert states. And under attentiveness, we have selective states, ignore or attend. Again, going back to the cocktail party effect. If we go back up to asleep and look down from there, we have different sleep stages. The first and second layers of our hierarchical chart are global states, and the third layer are selective states. That will be on the test. All right, so I'm going to have my TA go ahead and slowly start bringing the lights back up. And we'll see how many of you are still awake and paying attention. And how many of you happen to doze off. Although I do like seeing my students get some good rest. So that was just a fun little exercise to demonstrate attention and arousal and how it can be affected by your physical environment as well as stimuli coming in, including auditory and visual. And also, I'm not sure if any of you noticed or not, but there's a lovely soothing scent wafting through the air. And I actually came in and I've had an aromatherapy diffuser going, and that is a scent that's been known to relax and lower people's attention state. So these are all ways that our attention can be distracted and changed by our physical environment. So I hope you enjoyed our reading, and that's actually going to be our entire class for today. That'll give you plenty of time to go to the bookstore and get your books, or grab some coffee before your next class, since I so rudely tried to put all of you to sleep. And I look forward to seeing you again next week, where we're going to be learning more about neuroscience and cognitive behavior. Okay, bye everyone.